Flying Scotsman is a steaming memory machine.
And pay the cost of shipping Flying Scotsman home.
We put my granddad's ashes in the smoke box of the Flying Scotsman.
I proposed to my fiancée on the Flying Scotsman. Everyone's so emotional.
My grandfather helped build the Flying Scotsman.
We had the chance of a lifetime to buy Flying Scotsman.
It is special to everybody in their own way.
It's a big family that Flying Scotsman has got.
I would hope to see it carry on running for many more successful years.
He just gave me such hope because he got back on the rails, and I thought, well, I can get my life back on track as well.
My name is Bob Gwynn. I work here as a curator at the National Railway Museum. I helped with the exhibition that was about the history of Flying Scotsman. They asked me could I write a book about it. So it's the whole history of Flying Scotsman the locomotive and Flying Scotsman the train. Since that time I've had the privilege of meeting the people who'd once owned it and lots of people who worked on it. My father was a railwayman. Scotsman is one of those icons of railway enthusiasts. It's been around a long time. As a result of that, then there were several trips I did with it with my dad, which were quite memorable. Coming back from Hellifield back to Carnforth as the sun was setting, so the rails turned into gold, and you're swinging around these gold rails. Flying Scotsman is a steaming memory machine. You stand near it and just listen to people talk, and they'll come up with a whole host of memories that spin out of that symbol. This locomotive is now just approaching 100 years old. It's inevitable that it's got all those stories attached to it.
Flying Scotsman by Charlie Perrin. Ear defenders, camera, the thrill of the chase ensues. Where do I stand for the best glimpse? Away from the crowds, but close enough to get my steam train fix. I can sense his vibration long before anyone can see it or hear it. My autism super sense is kicking in. Suddenly puffing out, billowing smoke, rising patterns swirl and twirl into the late sun-streaked sky. The hiss and the hiss of the boiler gives me goosebumps. My name's Charlie, and my connection to the Flying Scotsman is I have autism, and steam trains are my special interest, and Flying Scotsman is my most favourite engine ever. When he did his inaugural run from London up to York, I was recovering from a period of illness and I'd lost my memory. And my family brought me down to try and spark a memory of steam trains because I didn't realise that I loved them that much. Hearing his whistle and seeing him just sparked my memory. He just gave me such hope because he got back on the rails, and I thought, well, I can get my life back on track as well. Everybody's got a magic moment to talk about Flying Scotsman. To me, it's like greeting an old friend when I see him. I'll do anything just to get a glimpse of him. And when you just see him, everybody's happy. So everybody's waving at each other, people are chatting, almost like a shared humanity. Being autistic, I often feel on the outside of the community, and he kind of brings a community feel to places. He just fills me full of hope.
So my name's Robin Beeson, and my connection to the Flying Scotsman is in May 2016. We put my granddad's ashes in the smoke box of the Flying Scotsman. We're very excited because we'd been waiting for 5 years since my granddad died to do his final wishes. Steam trains meant the world to him. What better than the most famous steam train of all? For me, a steam train isn't a place or a thing. When they're in steam, they're alive. They're not just a machine. And my granddad knew that, and my granddad taught that to me. When he retired from the railway, he spent his last years giving me as many experiences as I could. My granddad was a guard for over 40 years on the southern region, and we knew that this would be the place, and we spoke to the fireman, and he said to us that he'd never had a request like it, and he said he'd be privileged to do so. We heard a long, lengthy whistle that was very uncharacteristic of where we were, and we knew that that's where they'd put the ashes of my granddad. I felt really emotional when I heard the whistle, when I heard that, we'd done what he wanted us to do. It was a lovely day, and there was no better way of remembering my granddad.
Hi, I'm Stuart Cutmore. My grandfather, John Schimmel, helped build the Flying Scotsman in 1923. My grandfather started his life in Hexthorpe, as a lot of the plant men did. Got an apprenticeship at the plant when the Flying Scotsman was built. It got me wanting to join the railway when I left school. He would tell us some stories about the friends and comradeship that they had at the works. I found out in 1980 when I joined the works. There's other great locos come out of Doncaster Works, but the Flying Scotsman just, hits me. The history's there, it's in the family, it's in the blood. Once it's in your blood, you love trains. For me, knowing my granddad's been involved, the whistle as it comes through Doncaster Station every time, it's moving. It really is moving.
I'm Diane Muldowney, and I was lucky enough to get a footplate pass to go on the Flying Scotsman. I'm currently studying for my MA in Fine Art and researching my family rail history. So the journey on the Scotsman, I got on here at Hellifield. The driver actually worked with my dad at Rosegrove Shed, so it connected all the family history together. A great experience of watching the driver and the fireman working together as well, and the footplate was just immense. One evening the Scotsman came in light engine into Hellifield Station, and that particular night it was Mick who was driving. I asked him if he could get me some smokebox char out of the front of the engine, and I did a drawing with it. Just such a fantastic engine. In the blood, I guess.
My name's Patrick Mulley. I was the owner's representative for Flying Scotsman from 1982.
I'm Joan Millie. I'm Patrick's wife, and I was a train widow for all those years.
My day-to-day routine with Flying Scotsman was routine maintenance. It was such a popular engine, and one of the corporate jobs we did was a 10-day tour of Scotland. I'd been investigated by the security forces to make sure I wasn't a risk. And then I was informed that we were about to work a royal train, of which nobody has got to know anything about. It was top secret. But before we left to do the royal train, we had a message that the Queen Mother had requested to visit the footplate. On arrival at North Woolwich, the Queen Mother went on the footplate. She sat on the fireman's seat and she posed for the press. The Times covered it, but the Queen Mother actually sat on the fireman's seat, the Flying Scotsman. After we'd come back from the 10-day tour of Scotland, the engine was left at Carlisle. I had a word with the inspector. I said, look, I've got my wife with me. Do you mind if she travels on the footplate?
The inspector was there. He said, right, he said, you don't stand on here, he said, if you don't do anything. Right, okay. So he said, there's the shovel. So I started. We noticed out of the window there was a big wedding going on. And of course, Patrick blew the whistle and the photographers turned, and it was flash, 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 everything. So somewhere in their wedding album, they have Flying Scotsman. It was absolutely marvellous, it was.
I'm Wayne.
Hello, I'm Emma.
Our connection to the Flying Scotsman is that I proposed to my fiancée, a soon-to-be wife in May, on the Flying Scotsman whilst on the Salisbury countryside tour. The next day would have been our anniversary of 4 years being together. There's a long tunnel when the champagne had come out. I was looking rather shifty in my coat because I had the ring in my pocket. As soon as we got through the tunnel, I knew it's the time to propose to her, so I got up, got into the aisle with the train and got down on one knee, and everyone's so emotional. And then
the people next door to us, they got really emotional as well and took loads of pictures for us. Everyone you speak to knows what it is. You say we got engaged on the Flying Scotsman, they say, oh, it's beautiful. When I first saw it, I was emotional, I must admit. Not many people can say they're engaged on the Flying Scotsman, and I can.
My name's John Hillier. I'm connected to Flying Scotsman, I guess through my father, who was a technical assistant for Sir Nigel Gresley. The Flying Scotsman story is of particular interest to me because I spent a lot of time photographing it in the 1960s. In 1969 it went to the States and I was fortunate enough to be in the right place at the right time. I saw the locomotive on its way to Liverpool docks from Doncaster and managed to blag my way to get permission to go onto the dockside. There weren't a lot of people around the locomotive, there were a lot of people, dockers there, who were sort of preparing the engine to be lifted. It was quite something unique, seeing an engine being lifted on board a ship to be taken to the other side of the world. I managed to blag my way onto the ship and see it on board. I was the only person basically on the ship taking photographs of the engine. I think those of us that were in the UK really were a bit worried as to whether it would ever come back. It did certainly capture the imagination. It has this aura about it which attracts people.
I'm Clive Galt, work for the Science Museum. My first introduction with Flying Scotsman was in 1975 as a young child. Went to watch it beside the railway and it's one of those views that you never forget. In 2016 I was working with Riley's as a volunteer and the role came up as an engineer to work with Flying Scotsman, looking after it, operating it on the network and on heritage railways. There's very little remaining of the original 1923 locomotive. All railway vehicles have regular maintenance and as part of that you replace bits, you repair pieces. The nice bit is to follow the traditions of engineering and the pride in doing the best you can. Working on the steam engines is a real pleasure. The early stuff was definitely designed to last a period, but I don't think any of us thought it would come to its 100th year. From the youngest child to the oldest people, all for some reason relate to Flying Scotsman. It is special to everybody in their own way.
I'm Tracy Parkinson and going back till 2004 I was working at the Railway Museum. We had the chance of a lifetime to buy or acquire for the nation Flying Scotsman and I was asked to put together a 6-week programme of rail tours. I had the time of my life. It was brilliant. Some of the fondest memories are the collection of people that I got to work with. We made lifelong friends. Everybody thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. It was wonderful. I think it was the challenges that made it so entertaining when it worked well. It came to York. It was extremely popular. People just came out in their thousands to see it. And it is that element of, it is accessible and it is touchable and it is within the public's reach. I would hope that at some point in somebody's lifetime they get that magic moment with the engine that I've had. It changed to being in public ownership. Public could see it, public could access it, and they actually own little bits of it. That's magic.
I'm Dr. Sophie Vora. I'm a research associate at the National Railway Museum in York. Flying Scotsman is a really interesting locomotive. It's become one of those iconic symbols of the steam age. Even as steam was being phased out, people were so willing to save it and preserve it. It's been given the chance to continue to inspire people and to think about these great engineering feats that we had of the 20th century. It's really wonderful to connect it back to those that made it, those who ran it, those who just enjoy it because they do. It's very much a moving memory machine, and there's something really wonderful about being able to be in your local area and to see this coming down and to get that sense of the smells and the sounds. We're very lucky that people still find a connection to this engine. I think it will continue to be this icon of the steam era.
What's the number normally? 4472. Can you see 4472 in it? No? What's it got?
Yeah, look how big its wheels are.
Yes!
Is that the same on your t-shirt?
Are you going to sit in the driver's seat?
Yeah.
One more? A little bit longer?